You watched him walk away, you saw him cry, and in the comments, thousands of you said, "Good, let him suffer, but be careful what you wish for, because a broken man is dangerous, but a desperate man is lethal." Silas didn't walk away to give up. He walked away to re-strategize. And while Clara is trying to heal, while Julian is falling in love with her, time is running out, because a truth is coming. A truth that will turn two brothers into enemies for life. She's pregnant, he doesn't know. And the only thing standing between Silas and the truth is a lie Julian is about to tell. Welcome back to the wreckage. Let's pick up the pieces. And before we dive back into the chaos of the Blackwood family, I just want to say thank you to everyone who supported part 1. If this is your first time here, tap subscribe and stay with us. And I'm curious, we have listeners from all over the world. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from today? I love seeing how far these stories travel. Now, let's find out if Silas deserves a second chance.
Clara woke up at 3 in the morning and barely made it to the bathroom before she started vomiting. This was the 4th night in a row. She gripped the edges of the toilet, her whole body shaking, and told herself it was stress. Just stress. The gunshot wound was healing. The nightmares were fading. This was just her body processing trauma. But deep down, she knew. She'd known for 2 weeks. Known and ignored it. Known and hoped she was wrong. When the nausea finally passed, she sat on the cold tile floor and pressed her palms against her eyes. Her chest ached, not from the bullet wound anymore, but from something worse. A knock on the bathroom door made her jump. "Clara?" Julian's voice was soft, worried. "Are you okay?" She wanted to say yes, wanted to tell him she was fine, that he could go back to sleep, that she didn't need him to worry about her any more than he already did. But when she opened her mouth, what came out was a sob. The door opened immediately. Julian knelt beside her, not touching, just present. He'd learned over the past 3 months exactly how much space she needed, exactly when to reach for her, and when to wait. "I can't do this," Clara whispered. "Julian, I can't." "Can't do what?" She looked at him, at this man who had saved her life, who had given her a place to heal, who had asked for nothing in return. And she told him the truth that was going to ruin everything. "I'm pregnant." The silence that followed felt like falling. Julian didn't move, didn't speak. His face went through a series of micro-expressions. Shock, realization, something that might have been pain, and then something else, something Clara couldn't read. "Silas," he finally said. Not a question, a fact. Clara nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry. I know this changes everything. I know you didn't sign up for this. I'll leave. I'll figure something out. I just..." "Stop." Julian's voice was firm, but not harsh. "Just stop." He sat down fully on the bathroom floor, his back against the wall. He was quiet for a long time. Long enough that Clara's panic started to spiral into full-blown terror. She was going to lose this too, this safety, this peace. Julian had been kind to her, but there were limits to kindness. And raising his brother's child, that was asking too much. "How far along?" Julian finally asked. "About 6 weeks, maybe 7. "And you're sure?" "I took 3 tests yesterday." Clara's voice cracked. They were all positive. Julian nodded slowly. He looked at her, really looked at her, and Clara braced herself for the rejection, for the gentle but firm suggestion that she needed to find somewhere else to go. Instead, he said, "Okay." Clara blinked. "Okay?" "Okay." Julian ran a hand through his hair. "We'll figure it out." "Julian, I can't ask you to." "You're not asking. I'm offering." Silas gave up the right to know about this when he threw you out of a hospital and called you a criminal. He doesn't get to come back now just because there's a baby. But, no. Julian's voice was steel, wrapped in velvet. He doesn't get that. He had his chance to believe in you, to protect you, to choose you, and he chose wrong. This baby deserves better than a father who abandoned its mother. Clara's throat closed up. "You don't have to do this." "I know I don't have to." Julian stood up, then offered her his hand. "But I want to, if you'll let me." She took his hand, let him pull her to her feet. And for the first time since she'd seen those 2 pink lines, Clara felt like maybe, just maybe, she wasn't completely alone. But what she didn't know was that across the city, Silas was making a decision that would shatter whatever fragile peace she'd managed to build. Silas sat in his car outside his brother's building for the third night in a row. He knew how this looked. Desperate, pathetic, unhinged. He didn't care. 3 months. 3 months of hiring private investigators, lawyers, therapists. 3 months of trying to undo the damage his mother had done. Victoria was out on bail. Her lawyers were too good, her connections too deep, but Silas had filed a restraining order, had her frozen out of company accounts, had started the process of having her removed from the board. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough, because Clara was still in there, still with Julian, still refusing to see him. Silas had sent letters, flowers, gifts, all returned unopened. He'd tried showing up during the day, but building security had clear instructions. No Blackwood except Julian was allowed past the lobby. So here he was, sitting in the rain like a ghost haunting the life he'd destroyed. He watched the windows. 3rd floor, corner unit. The lights were off, but he knew they were home. Julian's car was in the garage. Silas pulled out his phone, opened his messages, scrolled to the thread with Julian that had been one-sided for months. He'd suspected for weeks. Clara had always been slim, but in the brief glimpses he'd caught of her, through windows or in the building lobby security footage he'd bribed his way into seeing, she looked different. Pale, tired, moving more carefully. And then yesterday, his investigator had followed Julian to a medical building, an OB/GYN office. Julian, at a pregnancy doctor's office. The timeline added up. 6, maybe 7 weeks ago, would put conception right at the end of their marriage, right before everything fell apart. Silas felt something twist in his chest. Not quite hope. Hope was too gentle a word for this. This was obsession, possession, the desperate clawing need to fix what he'd broken. That was his child, his baby, his family, and Julian was trying to take them. Silas typed, "We need to talk. It's important." He hit send. 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. Julian's response came through. "There's nothing to talk about." Silas typed back, "I know about the baby." The 3 dots vanished. For a full minute, nothing. Then, "What baby?" Silas almost laughed. Almost. Because this was his brother who'd never lied to him, who'd been the good one, the honest one, the one who didn't play games. And here he was, lying through his teeth. The baby Clara's carrying, my baby. Don't insult me by pretending you don't know what I'm talking about. This time there was no immediate response. Silas could picture Julian upstairs, trying to figure out how to handle this. Probably looking at Clara. Probably, his phone rang. Julian's name flashed on the screen. Silas answered before the second ring. "Julian. Stay away from her." Julian's voice was low, dangerous, a tone Silas had never heard from his gentle younger brother. "I mean it, Silas. Stay away. That's my child she's carrying." "No." Julian's voice was flat. Silas felt the world tilt. "Don't do this. Don't lie for her. I know the timeline. I know." "You don't know anything," Julian cut him off. "The dates are wrong, Silas. The baby isn't yours. It's mine." The phone nearly slipped from Silas's hand. "What?" "We slept together, before you kicked her out, while you were still choosing mother over her every single day." Julian's voice was steady, but there was something underneath it, something that sounded like pain. "So congratulations, brother. You didn't just lose your wife, you lost her to me." The line went dead. Silas sat in his car, his phone still pressed to his ear, and felt something inside him crack open. No, that was impossible. Julian wouldn't. Clara wouldn't. But the doubt crept in anyway, because he'd been wrong about everything else, hadn't he? Wrong about his mother, wrong about Clara, wrong about what he thought was real. What if he was wrong about this too? What if, while he'd been cold and distant and devoted to Victoria's poison, Clara had turned to the one person who'd actually shown her kindness? He looked up at the window. The lights were still off, but he could see shadows moving behind the curtains. 2 figures, close together, and Silas realized something that made his blood run cold. This wasn't just about losing Clara anymore. This was about Julian taking everything that should have been his wife, his child, his chance at redemption. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Silas felt something worse than guilt. He felt rage, but underneath the rage was something even darker. A memory he buried so deep, he'd almost convinced himself it never happened, because this wasn't the first time Julian had wanted something that belonged to Silas. It wasn't even the second. Clara heard Julian end the call and felt her stomach drop. "What did you do?" she whispered. Julian set his phone down on the kitchen counter. His hand was shaking. "I bought us time." By lying? Julian, he's going to find out eventually. He'll demand a paternity test. Then we'll deal with it then. Julian turned to face her. "But right now, you need rest. You need peace. And you won't get either of those things if Silas knows that baby is his." Clara wrapped her arms around herself. The baby. Already it felt less like a concept and more like a reality. A tiny life growing inside her. Half her, half Silas, half the man who destroyed her. "I don't know if I can do this," she said quietly. "Raise his child. Look at this baby every day and see his face." "You don't have to see his face." Julian moved closer, but still kept that careful distance. "You can see your face, your strength, your courage. This baby is yours, Clara. What Silas is or isn't doesn't change that. But he won't stop. You know he won't. Now that he thinks you and I..." She couldn't even finish the sentence. Julian had never touched her. Never even hinted at wanting more than friendship. Had he? Clara looked at him. Really looked at him. At the way his jaw was tight. At the way his hands were clenched. At the way he wouldn't quite meet her eyes. "Julian," she said softly. "Why did you lie?" "I told you, to protect." "No," she stepped closer. "Why did you lie, really?" The silence stretched between them like a wire pulled too tight. Finally, Julian said, "Because I can't stand the idea of him anywhere near you. Because every time I see you flinch at a loud noise or wake up screaming, I want to drive to his house and make him feel every ounce of pain he caused you." His voice dropped. "Because you deserve better than a man who had to lose you to figure out your worth." Clara's breath caught. "And yes," Julian continued, his eyes finally meeting hers, "because maybe I'm not as selfless as I pretend to be. Maybe I want him to think you chose me. Maybe I want him to live with the same betrayal he put you through." "Julian, I'm sorry." He stepped back. "I shouldn't have said that. You don't need my baggage on top of everything else. I need you to know that whatever you decide, keep the baby, don't keep the baby, tell Silas, don't tell Silas, I'm here. Not because I'm trying to be your savior, but because..." He stopped, swallowed hard. "Because you what?" Clara whispered. Julian opened his mouth, then closed it. The weight of what he wanted to say hung in the air between them, heavy and undeniable. But before he could find the words, a sound cut through the moment, a buzz from the intercom. Both of them froze. It was 3:30 in the morning. Nobody should be buzzing up at 3:30 in the morning. Julian moved to the intercom, pressed the button. "Yes?" Static. Then a woman's voice, cold and crisp and achingly familiar. "Hello, Julian. It's Victoria. We need to talk. Preferably before my son does something we all regret." Clara's blood turned to ice. Julian looked at her. She shook her head frantically. No way. That woman was not coming into this apartment." "We have nothing to discuss," Julian said into the intercom. "Oh, I think we do." Victoria's voice was silk over steel. "Because I know you're lying about the pregnancy. And I know that if Silas finds out you lied, there won't be a force on this earth that will keep him away from that baby. So let me up, Julian, or I'll call him right now and tell him the truth." Clara felt the room spin. Julian's finger hovered over the button. "Don't," Clara whispered. "Please don't let her up." Julian met her eyes. Then he pressed the intercom button again. "No." "Excuse me?" "I said no. You want to tell Silas? Go ahead. But you're not coming into my home. You're not anywhere near Clara. And if you try, I'll have you arrested for violating the restraining order." Silence on the other end. Then Victoria's laugh, cold and sharp. "Oh, Julian, you really think a piece of paper will stop me? You have no idea what's coming." The intercom went dead. Julian turned to Clara. "Pack a bag. Just essentials. We're leaving." "What? Where?" "I have a place upstate. A house that's not in my name. We can go there until we figure out our next move." "Julian, we can't just run. We're not running. We're being strategic." He was already moving, grabbing keys and his wallet. Victoria's out on bail. Silas knows about the baby. They're going to coordinate, and when they do, this apartment won't be safe anymore. Clara wanted to argue, wanted to plant her feet, and refused to be driven from another home. But the fear in Julian's eyes stopped her. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." They spent the next hour packing. Clara moved through the apartment like a ghost, gathering the few possessions she had left in this world. Clothes, documents, the ultrasound photo she'd hidden in her nightstand drawer. Julian was on his phone, making arrangements, calling in favors, ensuring they could disappear without leaving a trail. By 5 a.m., they were ready. Julian loaded the bags into his car, while Clara took one last look at the apartment that had been her sanctuary for 3 months. "Ready?" Julian asked from the doorway. Clara nodded. But as she moved to follow him, something stopped her. A feeling, like someone was watching. She turned back to the window, looked down at the street, and there, standing under a streetlight, was Silas. He wasn't hiding, wasn't pretending he wasn't there. He was just standing, looking up at the window, at her. Their eyes met across the distance, and Clara saw something in his face that made her chest ache. Not anger, not rage, just absolute, devastating despair. For a moment, just a moment, she almost felt sorry for him. Then she remembered the hospital, the cold eyes, the accusations, the way he'd walked away while she bled. She turned from the window. "Let's go," she said to Julian. They left through the building's back entrance, loading into Julian's car just as the first rays of sunlight broke over the city. Clara watched the building disappear in the rearview mirror, and for the first time in 3 months, she let herself hope that maybe, just maybe, she could finally be free. But freedom, she was about to learn, was never that simple. Not in the Blackwood family. Silas watched them leave. He saw the car pull out of the garage, saw Julian behind the wheel, saw Clara in the passenger seat, her face pale in the morning light. He didn't follow. What would be the point? To chase them down? To force another confrontation that would only push Clara further away? No. Silas had learned something in the past 3 months. Force didn't work with Clara. Threats didn't work. Money didn't work. The only thing that might work was proving he'd changed, and that required something Silas had never been good at: surrender. He pulled out his phone and called his lawyer. "David, I need you to draft something for me." "At 5 in the morning?" "Yes, a legal document, one that signs over all rights to my share of the Blackwood estate to Clara, regardless of our marital status." Silence. Then, "Silas, that's insane. That's hundreds of millions of dollars. I know what it is." "You can't just..." "I can, and I am. I also want you to set up a trust fund for the baby. 20 million. Untouchable by me, only Clara has access. Silas, and draft a custody agreement, one that gives Clara full physical custody, with no visitation rights for me, unless she explicitly grants them." "You're giving up your parental rights?" "No, I'm giving up my ability to force my way into their lives. There's a difference." More silence. Then, "What happened to you?" Silas looked up at the building, at the window where Clara had stood, at the empty space she'd left behind. "I grew up," he said quietly. "About 3 months too late." He hung up. Then he did something he'd been avoiding for weeks. He drove to the police station and turned himself in for helping Victoria make bail, because if he was going to prove he'd changed, he needed to start by facing the consequences of his actions. All of them. The drive upstate took 3 hours. Clara dozed in and out of sleep, her hand resting on her stomach. Julian drove in silence, his eyes constantly checking the rearview mirror. They arrived at the cabin just after 8 a.m. It was small, cozy, tucked away in the woods, where nobody would find them. The kind of place that felt like a secret. "This is yours?" Clara asked as they unpacked. "Bought it 5 years ago. Cash. Not in my name. Nobody in the family knows about it." Julian carried her bags inside. "I needed somewhere to escape to when things got bad. Somewhere Victoria couldn't find me." Clara looked around. It was rustic but comfortable. One bedroom upstairs, another downstairs, a small kitchen, a fireplace, windows that looked out onto trees and mountains and sky. "It's perfect," she said. Julian smiled. "Get some rest. I'll make breakfast." Clara climbed the stairs to the bedroom. It had a large bed with a thick quilt, soft pillows, and curtains that filtered the morning light into something gentle. She laid down, intending to rest for just a few minutes. She slept for 4 hours. When she woke up, Julian was sitting in a chair by the window, reading. He looked up when she stirred. "Feeling better?" Clara nodded. "I didn't mean to sleep that long. You needed it." He stood up. "I made soup. Are you hungry?" They ate lunch together, talked about nothing important. Movies they'd seen, books they'd read, carefully avoiding the subjects that mattered. Silas, the baby, what happened next. After lunch, Julian got a call from his lawyer. He stepped outside to take it, came back 15 minutes later, looking stunned. "What is it?" Clara asked. Julian handed her a folder. "It arrived by courier while you were sleeping, from Silas's lawyer." Clara opened it. Inside were legal documents, dozens of pages, all requiring her signature. A trust fund, $20 million for the baby, a transfer of assets, half of Silas's personal wealth, to her. A custody agreement, giving her full physical and legal custody with no visitation rights unless she explicitly granted them. And finally, a voluntary restraining order, legally preventing Silas from coming within 500 feet of her. All she had to do was sign. "This is..." Clara couldn't find the words. "Surrender," Julian finished. "Complete and total surrender." Clara looked up at him. Why would he do this? Because he knows he lost. Because he's trying to prove he's changed. Because, Julian's voice softened, because maybe he finally understands what you needed from him all along, which is to put you first. Clara felt tears prick her eyes. She looked back down at the documents. Everything she'd needed, everything she'd begged for, and all it cost was Silas giving up everything. "What do I do?" she whispered. Julian moved closer. "What do you want to do?" "I want..." Clara set the papers down. "I want to stop running. I want to stop being afraid. I want to build a life where this baby is safe and loved and never has to choose between their parents." "Then sign them," Julian said gently. "Take what he's offering. Use it to build that life." Clara picked up the pen. She hesitated for only a moment. Then she signed. Every document, every page, every agreement that legally severed Silas's ability to control her life. When she finished, she looked up at Julian. "Now what?" Julian smiled. "Now we breathe." That afternoon, they walked through the woods. Clara's morning sickness had eased enough that she could enjoy the fresh air, the sound of birds, the way sunlight filtered through the trees. "Tell me about this place," she said. "Why did you buy it?" Julian was quiet for a moment. "I needed somewhere that was mine. Somewhere that had nothing to do with the Blackwood name, or the company, or mother's expectations. Somewhere I could just be." "Did you ever bring anyone here?" "No, you're the first." Clara felt something warm bloom in her chest. "Thank you for sharing it with me. Thank you for letting me help you." They walked in comfortable silence for a while. Then Clara asked the question that had been bothering her since the night before. "Julian, when Silas accused you of sleeping with me, you didn't deny it." "Not really. You just hung up." Julian's jaw tightened. "I didn't want to give him the satisfaction of defending myself." "But it made him think it was true." "Good." Clara stopped walking. "Why good?" Julian turned to face her. "Because maybe I wanted him to know what it feels like to lose someone to your own brother. To wonder if the person you loved ever really loved you back." "Julian, what are you talking about?" He looked away. "Nothing. Forget I said anything." "No." Clara moved closer. "You're talking about someone else. Someone before me." Julian's silence was answer enough. "Who was she?" Clara asked softly. "It doesn't matter. She's gone." "Julian, her name was Alicia." The words came out rough, like they hurt. "We knew her in high school, both of us. And we both..." He stopped, started again. "Silas got to her first. I stepped back. I let him have her because I thought that's what brothers did. Put family first." "What happened to her?" "She died. Car accident. 10 years ago." Julian's voice was hollow. "Or at least, that's what we thought." Clara felt ice slide down her spine. "What do you mean, that's what you thought?" "The body was burned beyond recognition. We identified her by her jewelry." "But..." Julian shook his head. Sometimes I wonder if we were wrong, if she survived somehow, if she's out there somewhere hating us both for what we did to her. What did you do to her? Julian met her eyes. We made her choose, and when she couldn't, when she broke under the pressure, she drove her car into a wall. Clara's hand went to her mouth. Oh my God. So no, Clara, I'm not going to let Silas destroy you the way we destroyed her. I won't let him make you choose. I won't let him break you. Julian's voice was fierce. Even if it means lying, even if it means fighting my own brother, I will not let that happen again. Clara reached for him, took his hand. I'm not her, Julian. I'm stronger than you think. I know you are, but that doesn't mean you should have to be. They stood there in the woods, holding hands, and something shifted between them. Something that had been building for months. Julian, Clara whispered, I need you to know something. What? I'm not in love with Silas anymore. I don't think I have been for a long time. Maybe I never really was. Maybe I was just in love with the idea of being loved. Julian's grip on her hand tightened. Clara, and I know this is complicated. I know I'm pregnant with your brother's baby. I know we're in the middle of a war with your family. But, she took a breath, I'm falling for you, and I need you to know that before this goes any further. Julian stared at her. You can't mean that. I do. You're just grateful. You're confused. Clara kissed him. It wasn't soft. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate and hungry and full of 3 months of unspoken feelings. Julian froze for half a second. Then he kissed her back. His hands came up to cup her face, and Clara felt something inside her chest crack open. Not breaking. Opening, like a door she'd kept locked for too long. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were breathing hard. We can't do this, Julian said, but he didn't let her go. Why not? Because you're vulnerable. Because you're pregnant. Because you're scared, Clara finished. You're scared that if we do this and it doesn't work, you'll lose me too. Julian's silence was confirmation. I'm scared too, Clara admitted, but I'm more scared of waking up one day and realizing I let fear stop me from being happy. Julian searched her face, looking for doubt, for hesitation. He found none. Okay. He kissed her again, slower this time, sweeter, and Clara felt for the first time in her entire life what it meant to be chosen. They spent the rest of the day in a bubble, cooking dinner together, laughing at stupid jokes, sitting on the couch with Clara's head on Julian's shoulder while the fire crackled in the fireplace. It felt normal, safe, like they'd been doing this for years instead of hours. That night, Clara went upstairs to the bedroom, while Julian stayed downstairs on the couch. He'd insisted, said he didn't want to rush things, said she needed her space. But Clara knew the truth. He was terrified that if he got too close, if he let himself want her too much. Just like Alicia had, Clara lay in bed, her hand on her stomach, and thought about the baby growing inside her. Silas's baby, the child of a man who'd broken her in ways she was still discovering. But also her baby, a chance to create something good from something terrible. She closed her eyes and let herself imagine a future where she raised this child with Julian, where they built a family that wasn't defined by betrayal and lies and manipulation, where they got to be happy. She fell asleep with that thought wrapped around her like a blanket. And for the first time in months, she didn't have nightmares. Julian woke to the sound of breaking glass. His eyes snapped open. He was on the couch, still fully dressed. The fire had died down to embers. He checked his watch. 3:15 a.m. Another sound. A crash from upstairs. Julian's heart stopped. Clara? No answer. He was on his feet and running up the stairs before his brain fully processed what was happening. He hit the bedroom door at full speed. It swung open, and Julian's world shattered. The room was destroyed. The lamp was smashed on the floor. The curtains were torn. The window was broken, cold air pouring in, and the bed was empty. Clara, Julian's voice cracked. Clara, he spun around, looking for any sign of her, any clue. The bathroom door was open, empty. The closet, empty. She was gone. Julian pulled out his phone with shaking hands and dialed 911. I need to report a kidnapping. Someone broke into my house and took. He stopped, because on the pillow where Clara's head had been, was something that made his blood freeze. A silver locket, delicate, tarnished, with an inscription on the back. Julian dropped the phone. He picked up the locket with trembling fingers, turned it over, read the words he'd hoped he'd never see again. To Silas and Julian, forever yours, A. No, this was impossible. He'd watched them lower the casket into the ground. He'd thrown dirt on the coffin. He'd mourned her for 10 years. Alicia was dead. She had to be dead. Julian's phone was still on the floor, the 911 operator's voice tinny and distant. He picked it up, hung up on the operator, dialed a different number. Silas answered on the first ring. Julian? What? Where is she? Julian's voice was raw, desperate. What did you do? Where is Clara? What are you talking about? I'm at my apartment. I haven't left since. Don't lie to me, Julian screamed. She's gone. Someone broke into the cabin and took her, and you're the only one who knew where we were. I didn't take her. Julian, I swear I didn't. Then explain this. Julian's hand tightened around the locket. Explain how Alicia's locket ended up on Clara's pillow. Silence. Then Silas's voice, barely audible. That's impossible. It's right here in my hand. Julian, we buried that locket with her. I watched them close the casket. Then, someone dug it up. Or we were wrong. Julian's voice cracked. Silas, what if we were wrong? The body was burned. We identified her by her jewelry, by that locket. Silas sounded like he was in shock. If it's there, if someone took it, then either someone robbed her grave, Julian said, or we buried the wrong person. No, that's insane. Alicia is dead. We watched her die. Did we? Julian cut him off. Did we actually see her die? Or did we see a car on fire and assume? Silas didn't answer. I'm coming there, he finally said. Don't move, don't touch anything. I'm calling the police and then I'm coming there. Silas, if someone has Clara, if someone wants to hurt her to get to us, Silas's voice was grim. Then we both know who it is, and we both know what she's capable of. She's dead, Julian whispered, but he didn't believe it anymore. Then who's holding the locket? Silas asked. Julian looked at the window, at the broken glass, at the evidence of a struggle. At the empty bed where Clara should have been. I don't know, he said, but whoever it is, they've been planning this for a long time. I'm on my way. Stay where you are. Stay safe. Safe? Julian's laugh was bitter. Silas, she's gone. The woman He stopped. Couldn't finish the sentence. Clara's gone, and we don't even know who took her. Yes, we do, Silas said quietly. We've always known. We just didn't want to admit it. He hung up. Julian stood in the destroyed bedroom, holding a locket that belonged to a dead woman, and felt reality crack apart. Because if Alicia was alive, if she'd been alive this whole time, then everything they believed for 10 years was a lie, and Clara was in the hands of someone who had every reason to want revenge. Julian sank to the floor, his back against the wall, and did something he hadn't done since the night he found Clara bleeding on the sidewalk. He prayed, not to God, not to fate, just to whoever was listening. Please let her be alive. Please let me find her. Please don't let me lose her too. But the only answer was the wind through the broken window and the cold, terrible silence of being too late. If you were Julian, what would you do? Tell me in the comments. Because what comes next is going to test everything you thought you knew about love, loyalty, and how far someone will go for revenge. Part 3 is going to answer the question nobody saw coming. What happens when the dead refuse to stay buried? And trust me, you're not ready.